welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And welcome to our final Patio season episode. We're recording on the final weekend of the summer.
Yes, it's been a great summer, and for the first time in quite a while, we are recording in person from the shores of Georgian Bay.
Yes, it took us a little while to get set up here, but we're set up and ready and going. So as much as it's great to be by the lake, I think most Leaf fans, including us, are ready for the season to get going. Have to say it's been pretty quiet in Leafland for August and halfway into September, and that's why it's exciting that training camp is starting this week, and the Leafs play their first preseason game on Saturday versus the Sens.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be kind of a unique thing that they've never done. It's going to be a split squad doubleheader. They're going to play a game at 1 p.m. And then a second game at 7 p.m. So that's something they've never really done before. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be fun so you can buy a ticket for one game and then stick around and have another game.
That's right.
The whole team.
And a couple of quick notes before we get into the show as well. The Leafs TV schedule also came out, and they are going to be on the American networks 10 times this season on ESPN and TNT. The most maybe than any other season. I hardly recall them being, profiled or having that many games on the American channels before. So why do you think that is, Chris?
Well, because Austin Matthews is obviously. Yes, you don't have to go any further than that, because he's the MVP, the Hart Trophy winner in the NHL last season. And the American TV viewers watching the NHL should want to see the best player obviously play. So that's basically it, is what I.
They need to showcase him, and that's probably the best way to do it. It's going to be interesting to see what the panels say. Now they're going to have to talk about the Leafs a little bit more. I don't know if they're going to like that, but anyway, Biz Nasty will.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
He's a fan of Austin. Yeah. And the Leafs.
Anyway, a couple of games to note on the American networks are towards the end of the season in March 23rd in Tampa and March 15th versus Colorado. So mark those on your calendars.
Yeah, they should be good games. They're also have a game, I think it's in February, with Chicago, like an original six matchup, but Chicago is obviously in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes along with the Habs. So a couple of original six teams there that are going to be tanking basically this season. So, but so on the subject of TV, we forgot to mention, I guess in our last episode, how we heard that and Leafs TV announced that it was going off the air. So I actually like Leafs TV, and I don't know, it first got going 21 years ago, and I had the subscription, not for all 21 years, but for most of it. I liked it when they used to have, maybe it's because I don't know if the rules changed or something, but when Bob McGill and Danielle Emmanuel, and I think there was one other person that used to join them in the stands, and they used to watch the practices. And they used to have it on TV, and they used to give their thoughts. They used to see the different combinations, what they were doing during practice. I thought that was interesting, but then they got rid of that obviously during the last couple of years with the pandemic. And then before that, though, I think it had to have been at least a couple of years. But even this, this tournament now that's going on in Traverse City, that's something that they could have put on there.
That normally they do. Yeah. And we would have had an opportunity to watch it on there, and now it's you kind of have to find some kind of sketchy streaming site to take that in on. But
and I liked I watched the old games as well. I enjoyed that, not all the time, obviously, but whatever, during the summer when there's no hockey, and I used to watch the 93 playoffs again and relive that. That was on the good games, not in the final series there versus LA, but. I'm going to miss that. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I wonder if the fact, I know that it used to get wrapped up into, some of the cable subscriptions, and now that, it's going very much towards streaming these days with, even TSN and Sportsnet having their own dedicated streaming sites as well. I just wonder if it just wasn't cost effective anymore for them to be able to run it, and maybe they didn't want to go that route. But they have promised that, despite the fact that they have canceled this, that they are going to, offer more content and more ways for fans to be able to see content. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like, or if they're going to just add more to their actual app, their team app, right, and site. But we'll see what comes down the pipeline for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, another quick note we wanted to mention is a media release that the NHL put out outlining the growth of women in various hockey roles. And it is quite impressive and extensive. I can't spit that out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know. I guess in the article, it said that there's been more than 100, or there is more than 100 women now working in various areas of the NHL hockey operations, player scouting and development, player health and safety, and analysis roles. So one thing I thought that was interesting, and the article did talk about it, and that I think women can actually participate like sooner than later, basically, is the officiating. So, because there's quite a few officials now that are going to be retiring in the next year or so. And I guess the one woman that we mentioned before in last season, the beginning of last season, was Katie Gay. And she actually she's an AHL official. Last season, she officiated in that league for the whole season. That was her first full season. So obviously they have to have some, I guess, experience in the lower levels a little bit, but she's worked her way up to the AHL. So I'm really hoping that's the area that I'm hoping that to see like a woman come into the NHL as an official.
Yeah, and well, that's where they graduate from, the AHL. So yeah, she could very well be the one who's the pioneer for that. But they do say in this article that more than 45 female participants have been invited to the NHL Exposure Combine for officiating. So that's actually a pretty substantial number and a huge increase. So it looks like it's looking good that way. But definitely, that is the one area where we're not really seeing representation on the ice yet. Yeah. So hopefully that's something that will come soon. Anyway, we've included that article in our show notes, and that's going to be available on all the apps wherever you listen to our show.
Yeah. And also just a reminder to enter our anniversary contest on Instagram. It's our third birthday or anniversary and of the show. Our handle is at LTL 1917, and look for our anniversary post, which has all the details on how to enter, and you could win some great Leaf items and a Tim Hortons gift card. Deadline to enter is September 30th, so there's still quite a bit of time to enter, so be sure to check that out.
Mm-hmm. And now it's time to get into the show proper, starting with our training camp preview, what we're going to be watching as camp gets going. Then we're going to be running our Ladies Talking Leafs summer highlight reel with our highlights from the summer of 2022. You may seem like there wasn't much, but we did find some things to highlight. So, and in our third period segment, we're going to talk about the coaching carousel in the NHL, as a lot of coaches have changed teams. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
Okay, so we're going to start off the Leaf update with the training camp preview. And before we get into it, though, we just want to mention, I guess, within the past couple of weeks, the Leafs signed Zach AstonRey to a PTO. And it's just another option for the fourth line as it creates even more competition. There's quite a few players that we got that are going to be at camp, it's something to watch for there at training camp. So, the players that are fighting for a spot on the fourth line, maybe the third line, depending, are Nicholas Aube-Kubel, Adam Gaudette, Joey Anderson, Nick Abruzzese. Hopefully I described that well or said that well.
I think it's pretty close.
Alex Steves, Wayne Simmons, and Kyle Clifford. And those last two are really going to be up for a challenge, I think. Yeah.
Definitely. I'm not sure what, they're going to be able to bring I think they're going to definitely use them in spots. I think Sheldon Keefe knows what he has in them, and he's going to know when is the right time to insert them. The other thing that, I did read a little bit about is that there's a captaincy vacancy on the Marlies, and Kyle Clifford could be a really good fit there for that. As a veteran, somebody that both Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas trust. So potentially there's a fit there.
Yeah, that's good. And yeah, so and then with Simmons, I think I don't know, they might try and clear him to have him go through waivers to send him down. It just depends really on all these all these other. I think Obey Kubel has the best chance of making it, definitely. And
I think that there are some articles that I've read where he's somewhat a lock. For a spot.
It's the younger guys that are going for that one or two other spots that I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I know Alex Steves. He's been playing pretty well at this tournament that we're going to get into in Traverse City in Michigan, and both he and Nick Robertson are both saying this is their time now to to get into the NHL to make the big club.
Yeah.
But but then there's Joey Anderson too, right? Who's been with the Marlies for quite some time, and
he's definitely on the bubble for sure. To be making the team, and like Dubas said at the end of the season, he wants to see some players from their AHL team make a push in training camp to earn a spot.
I mean, it's pretty well guaranteed. They're going to lose somebody of these players through waivers,
for
right?
Sure.
And
but I honestly, and I think I've said this before, that they actually count on that, and I think part of their pickups are designed that way, so that they've got fodder for the waiver wire,
right? Because they're still with the cap. They're still over the cap. And right now they have 48 out of the 50 maximum contracts signed. So they're definitely going to have to get Dubas, they obviously need more flexibility than that especially going into the, a trade deadline. You need a few extra openings there
and everyone, by all accounts, are coming into the season healthy this year, which that hasn't been the case the last two seasons, really.
Yeah.
We've had some injuries to start the season, which gives them a little bit of wiggle room, right? And this year, that's not the case. I mean, that's a good thing. That means everybody's coming in 100%. Which is what you want to see, right? Especially as a coach, that's what I'd want to see, because that's really how you can, have the most clear-cut decisions, right? You know exactly what you're getting. But cap-wise, it doesn't really help them, right?
Yeah.
So,
But out of these players that we've mentioned, or if there's somebody else, who do you think is going to make a big impression of these bottom six or fourth line candidates? Who are you looking to say that is?
Well, I think that, but again, this is an interesting scenario based on what we just said with the cap, considering this person is coming in without a contract. But Zach AstonRey, I've heard him mentioned a lot, even before the off season, as somebody to pick up at the trade deadline. His name comes up a lot as the type of player that they could be looking for. He's defensively minded. He's, aggressive on the forecheck. He's able to play with physicality, kill penalties. He's the type of player that they're really looking for. So, I think he's definitely somebody to watch.
Yeah, because he's 28 years old. He's a right winger, and
so he's kind of got he's a little bit more on the veteran side. He played with Pittsburgh for quite a while.
Yeah, so he split last season. I guess, he was signed with Pittsburgh,
Yeah, he went to
and then he
Anaheim.
went for a couple of seasons in Pittsburgh, and then went to Anaheim. So, yeah,
he played there for 5.5 seasons.
In Pittsburgh? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I think definitely a lot of people are high on him. Maybe it's because it's kind of funny. It's like we're spending so much time on the fourth line going into training camp, which whenever normally is not the case with the Leafs. But I guess that means that we're, like a lot of people have been saying, we have a lot of forward depth. So
Well, this kind of competition is really good because that basically means that you're going to be taking the cream of the crop that's there.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. That's what we need, because that bottom six did not cut it in the playoffs
for sure.
last year.
Yeah. It's an identity. They didn't have an identity.
100%. Yes, exactly. So we need that. So I'm just curious though, as to whether or not, like, who do you think is going to be center for that fourth line though?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because there's been talk of like Kempf moving down to that line and making that fourth line, giving them a lot more ice time than they've been getting in the past and making it like a true defensive juggernaut.
No, I don't think. I think he's going to stick on the third line with him. I
mean, that's what I think. That's where I'd like to see him.
Yeah.
But I just wondered what you thought of that.
Yeah.
Talk.
No, I like Kempf on the third line. I think he's more built to have a few more minutes. And he's like on that defensive side, like the checking style. I think he's better for that. Gaudette is a center, right? Adam Gaudette? I think he is.
I think so.
We'll both look that. Or Sil will look it up while I'm talking here, because I'm thinking that he might. Like a lot of people are high on him as well. So because I believe what I heard was having a fourth line of Owe Kubel and Adam Gaudette at center, and then having like one of the young guys like Alex Steves on the wing, even though
he is a center.
Yeah, okay, because
right shot.
Yeah, or Steves, or like giving one of the young guys a shot on the fourth line, whether it be Steves or the Abruzzese.
Yeah,
that's what I was hearing, and they said, but I don't know. And then they said like to mix in Wayne Simmons, like basically to keep every once in a while, right? To just keep him,
because I think that the times to put him in are where you need to see something more from the club.
Yeah.
Like when they're kind of going in the doldrums a little bit and you need somebody to make an impact.
Yeah. Cause Simmer's he's a leader, right? Like he's 100%. Definitely.
That's really what he's here for.
He has the qualities of
more than anything.
Yeah. He has those qualities. He's great in the dressing room from what we've heard. And, and like likable person, just keeps the energy going in the room. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It all starts. It's coming up on either Wednesday or Thursday. We never know the for sure date, but whether it be the 21st or 22nd of September. I don't know why they do this. They don't actually officially say it anymore. They used to have like the official date of the opening of camp, but yeah.
So a couple of these players are in Traverse City for the Leafs Prospect Tournament, which they have organized with the Dallas Stars, St. Louis Blues, Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Detroit Red Wings. Nick Abruzzese, Alex Steves are there, and as is Nick Robertson.
Yeah.
So from what we've heard, I think we've kind of got like a 50-50 record. We won big first game, lost big second game. Lost in overtime third game. That was just today because we're recording on the Sunday.
We lost to the Blue Jackets today, and then the last game is against Detroit. Yeah, so tomorrow on Monday. But I don't know. I guess it's funny because Robertson is there for I believe this is the second time he's there as the most experienced NHL player to suit up for the Leafs at the rookie tournament. This is a rookie tournament that they have with the other NHL teams. So yeah, I don't know if this is the last chance for Robertson, like to try and like,
No,
I don't know. It's
he's only 21.
Well, I guess it's just the injury issues with him, but
for sure. That's a huge setback. Yeah. Plus COVID and all of that, shutdowns and everything. I think that a lot of these guys that, are drafted around the same time as him are going to take a little longer to make their jump. Plus, it's a juggernaut. It's not like it's an easy lineup to crack.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. But last year, I looked up just the stats for Robertson. He actually did have like a point a game player. Basically, he only played 28 games with the Marlies, but he had 16 goals and 28 points in the 28 games. So, yeah. And the thing with him is, though, that I did take note is Robertson is eligible to be sent down with not having to go through waivers. Mm-hmm. So that's something that may not work well for him. It works well with the club, but it may be like those paper transactions that they do every once in a while.
Yeah. To save money on the cap.
Or you actually,
for sure. For sure. But you know what? That is actually a good way for him to, be getting some experience and then still building confidence and developing in the AHL as well. So yeah, we could see a year like that for him for sure.
Yeah. And
he did score a goal in that first game against, who did we play first?
Dallas. Yeah.
Dallas.
Yeah, we lost to St. Louis. And then, and then we lost today in overtime to Columbus. But yeah, so that's one thing, I guess, that with the waivers for him. And then, I guess it was interesting, Manny Malhotra, which is another interesting thing. Malhotra is our assistant coach with the Leafs, but he was given the assignment to actually coach the rookie tournament. So that's something huge for him too. He's excited to do that, and it's a progression for him for his coaching career. But he said for Robertson, what he needs to do is to apply the systems and be in the right place at the right time and make plays he's expected to make. I thought that was kind of interesting for as a statement to say, be in the right place at the right time.
Well, to me, that sounds like he needs to be using his head.
Right.
A little bit more, but he seems to want to do everything so fast that just like we were saying before, even Haley Wickenheiser in a different way was saying he needs to take a little bit off of his game because he hustles a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But he probably needs to take a moment and think a little bit.
Yeah, think the game a little bit, slow it down a little bit, and
like not so much that he's overthinking things. Obviously, you don't want that. I mean, it's hard. Yeah. It's a fast sport, especially faster now than ever. But being able to think quickly and make those plays is going to be paramount. But that just tells me, though, that maybe he needs more development. So spending some time in the AHL this season is not going to hurt him in that regard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
And probably smart for them to put Malhotra there because then he can see firsthand and bring that back to the coaching staff on the big club.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. I mean? Yeah. Like during the season they can use that experience definitely from Malhotra to say if they need to bring somebody up or that type of thing, that this experience from him will be really useful for Sheldon Keefe. Yeah. And then just a couple of notes, I guess, that from the tournament that I've noticed from reading on Twitter and some articles. I guess a couple players that have kind of stood out. One kid is Pavel Gogolov or Gogolev. I don't know. Hopefully I butchered that.
Gogolev.
Thank
Probably
you.
Gogolev.
He seems to be making a good impression. Anyways, in the first few games, he has a goal and an assist in both the two games. I don't think he got any points today. He started with the Marlies last year, but then was sent down to the Growlers in the ECHL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember his name. It sounded familiar.
Yeah, but apparently he's been showing like good energy, puck possession, and then he's got a couple of points. So that's good. And then the other kid is Alex Steves, and he has points in all 3 games. He scored a goal today versus Columbus. So, and both.
That doesn't surprise me. I remember even last year at the development camp, Haley Wickenheiser talked really highly of him, and that he's got a really good hockey IQ and a lot of hustle, and he's a really hard worker.
Yeah, and I think he plays well with Robertson. I think he played with Robertson a little bit, like with the Marlies. And I think they had a pretty good connection there. But they're both, those 2 players, out of everything that I've seen, it's like Alex Steves and Nick Robertson. They're really going to try and like push to make the club. They really want to get in there. So we'll hopefully one of them. I think Robertson will definitely. I think he will get there. I think this is. I mean, Alex Steves. He's only, let's say, been around about a season or 2 seasons. So, whereas Robertson's been around a little bit longer. So, I just think it's Robertson's time, but he just needs to, I guess, grab it and go with it. Yeah, and
I agree.
Yeah, so next thing, the prospect tournament ends on Monday, tomorrow, with the final game versus the Wings, and then it's on to the Leafs training camp, which I mentioned earlier. It's either on the 21st or the 22nd. If it's on the 21st, that's the day we're releasing this podcast. So yeah, lots of excitement and on that day. And other than the competition for the bottom 6, the main thing most fans will be watching is the goaltending.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah. So this is quite the interesting thing. It's funny. I was talking to a colleague of mine, and she actually lives in Washington. So she knew she's a hockey fan. I found out she's a hockey fan. She likes the Capitals, and she knew quite a bit about Ilya Samsonov. And she actually said that he's a very likable guy too, like in the room, like everybody liked him. And what she said was, when he's good, he's really good. When he's bad, he's really bad. So, and I think that's what most of the reports on him were through the media as well. But he's only, again, we've said this before, he's only 25. But then the other thing I thought of that I read in researching the goaltending a bit is that he's obviously not going to be any worse than Peter Mrazek. So
no, that's true.
Think of it, because you got to think Matt Murray is going to be the number 1. Okay.
Right.
So I think actually that was the downfall last season, is that Jack Campbell, he never had, again, it's the same thing that Freddie put up with too. You never had the quality backup to kind of have that consistency in the goaltending. When the number 1 guy needed or that tandem type of thing, when one guy needed the break, the other guy was able to pick it up. But we just have never found, Kyle Dubas has never found a pairing yet. Hopefully, knock on wood, this pairing will be the one. As I knock on the wood here. Hopefully this pairing will work out. But yeah, I mean, I just think too, I read something interesting. Curtis Sanford, who's our new goaltending coach, he actually played in Russia in the KHL. So he played 3 he played 3 seasons in the KHL. So he knows the Russian style of hockey and goaltending. And the systems that they play in front of the Russian goaltenders, he knows them pretty well, just from having that experience. I thought that was interesting too. I didn't know that. So you got to think, because, I mean, obviously just having a new goaltending coach isn't going to miraculously make this this pairing a success sort of thing, right? Because, I mean, I don't know, but there's a lot of negativity, let's just say, going into it, and myself included. I mean, I don't know how it's gonna go. I just want, with Matt Murray, he just needs to be healthy, and then there's just that consistency that they have to build between the 2 goalies.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully they can become a good team. One thing I like is that Samsonov, he's on a 1-year deal. It's very much a show me deal, and that's what he wants to show, so that he can really show what he can do. With that means that when he comes into the net, every game, he's going to be trying to prove something. So that's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah. The good thing with him too is that, like, when playing with the Capitals, he's used to the offensive style. Like, the Capitals have similar style to us, right? So, yeah.
And the one thing, I think that the fact that things have been so quiet over the summer, Murray hasn't been, demonized like super heavily. I mean, like, obviously there's been negativity around the goaltending throughout the summer, but it's sort of been kind of, a little bit quiet, and there hasn't been a lot of media attention towards covering them or talking to them, or, you know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting, and that might be a good thing.
That's going to be changing coming Wednesday or Thursday.
Very soon, yes. Yeah, all bets are off after that. But leading up, they've been given, both of them, plenty of rope to get their heads in the right place, practice, do what they need to do to prepare without having a cloud over them, daily up to this point.
Yeah.
So
it's, that's basically, I think it's going to be the main focus, is the goaltending. And then, of course, there's the whole Rasmus Sandin contract thing.
Yes, that's the other cloud.
Yeah, but we've talked about that.
Well, you know what? Yeah, and it benefits the Leafs for him to not show up. So it's totally in his court. Yeah. If he wants to play, he has to sign. That's it. Yeah. Because it's good. It's good for the Leafs for him to not be here this year. Bottom line, for the bottom line, actually.
Yeah, and this is actually
bad for him, though.
The signing, like this signing with Murray and Samsonov, like, they're both short signings, which it's kind of similar, like the way you were saying with all those fourth line players. Like, Kyle Dubas has set it up well that way, to not be tied in too long to this pairing. But
no, and the other part of the equation for all of these players is that they have to constantly perform, because if they don't, they're not getting another contract with us, and they won't get another contract elsewhere, or at least not for what they would want.
Yeah.
So it's in everyone's best interest to, for these players to do their best all the time, because they've got a very short window.
Yeah.
So,
but we're just happy that the camp is finally going to be starting, because it's been a quiet summer for the Leafs, and but we've still managed to pick out a few highlights from this summer of 2022. So let's roll the Ladies Talking Leafs Summer Highlight Reel.
Coming in at number 3, the 2022 Leaf Draftees. Always a big moment when you get drafted by an NHL team, and that's why it's included as a highlight for this summer. The Leafs' first 2 picks were Fraser Minton and Nicholas Moldenhauer, a right winger who was chosen in the 3rd round, and he happens to be from Mississauga.
Yeah, I saw that he's from Mississauga. Actually, Fraser Minton's making a good impression in the Traverse City tournament too. Yeah,
he even dropped the gloves.
Yeah, so he has some
in the second game
feistiness into him. But yeah, no, having like, the draft is always something special for all the families and the kids. I mean, they're only 18, but they're getting drafted for the first time to make their dream of getting to the NHL. So yeah, that's definitely our number 3, or worthy of being number 3 in our highlight reel of the summer. Number 2, we put as meeting some great Leaf fans during the summer. I actually had a couple of experiences this for this one, and which is why mostly I wanted to have it included. There's been a couple of people, mostly up north here by the shores of Georgian Bay, that I've met.
It's definitely Leaf country up here.
Yeah, and they every time I wear my Leaf gear quite a bit during the summer, all year long, and anytime I if I have the baseball cap on, t-shirt, there's always somebody mentioning like, oh, like go Leafs go. And this one girl was saying to me that worked in one of the local shops here, she's like, her husband's a huge Leaf fan, and he has like a lampshade that's all Maple Leafs or something. And he has this whole like man cave or sports cave. They watch the game down there all the time. And so I told her about our podcast, and then she's like, oh my God, that's so exciting. So it's just great to get that interaction with Leaf fans during the summer. And then another person that I met, again, I was wearing my Leaf gear, and I went into the store, and I actually had bought that shirt from that store. So she had recognized it, and she's like, oh my God. She's like, that's the shirt that's here. I said, yeah. I said, it looks good, doesn't it? Right. And I said, but everything with Leafs looks good. Right. So, but, and then again, we got on the topic of the podcast, and she's like, oh, I could just tell. She's like, it must be great because you show such passion and all this. Right. And I was like, well, I said, I don't know, tune in, find out. I said, right. I said, we love the Leafs, both me and Sil. So I said, so yeah, it's just meeting fans like that. It's great during the summer. Keeps us going.
Absolutely. All right. So in the number one spot, it's a tie between us, the ladies of Ladies Talking Leafs. And we're so proud and happy that we were joining the Believe Network. And tied with us, of course, is Auston Matthews, who won the Hart Trophy as league MVP, the Rocket Richard Trophy, and the Ted Lindsay Award as the league's best player. So, yeah, I think we're in good company there with Auston. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, we were debating it a little bit if we should be tied with Auston, but then we thought, no, it's joining the Believe Network. It's something huge for us from when we started in 2019. Yeah. It's just a 2-woman show, still is, with just us learning how to get our voices to you. And of course, it's all thanks to you that you guys listen to us. So so that was our number one highlight of the summer. And it's Auston Matthews. I mean, what can you say about him? I just hope, the only thing I'm really hoping opening night, that the Leafs do something for him, because I don't think that it was kind of a low key. I don't even know why it was low key, but at when they did the awards presentation, it wasn't, because it was done during the Stanley Cup final.
They did it during the finals.
Yeah, and it just wasn't enough for me to to honor what he did last season, scoring the 60 goals and just having a phenomenal season. So, yeah.
For sure, the fans will want to have a chance to celebrate him. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, the next season is fast approaching. And of course, we're going to see Auston up to his old tricks, hopefully. And I can't wait to see what he does. Another person.
And he might have some new tricks.
Yes, absolutely. And other people that we're going to be keeping an eye on, obviously, the rest of his teammates, but we're also going to be, seeing what Sheldon Keefe is going to be doing. And with that, we're going to move on to our third period segment, where we're going to talk a little bit about coaching. And gosh, there's been a lot of changes this year. So
we're going to be going around the league and discuss the NHL Coaching Carousel, because like Sil said, there's been a lot of changes behind the bench. 10 teams will have a new bench boss, basically. So I don't know. It's hard to keep track of all this, but okay. So I'm going to start off with the first 5. So Florida, we mentioned actually Paul Maurice in our last show. He's gone to Florida with the Panthers. Boston has Jim Montgomery. Chicago has Luke Richardson. Dallas has Pete DeBoer. And Detroit has Derek Lalonde.
All right. I'm going to take the last bunch. And New York Islanders signed Lane Lambert, who is going to be replacing Barry Trotz. Philadelphia as John Tortorella. So he's getting another shot. San Jose hired David Quinn. Vegas took Boston's cast off in Bruce Cassidy. And Winnipeg has hired Rick Bowness. So,
I mean, out of those, I guess there's only the two in Detroit and the Islanders that are, let's just say, not really familiar names. But my interest was, of course, John Tortorella, because it's kind of funny. It's good for the league to have him in it because he's great TV after the game, like to make you laugh. But I had a good laugh when I read Cam Atkinson, who's a former player of his that from Columbus, who's now on Philadelphia. And it's like
Oh my God! So he gets it again.
But
that's hilarious.
Yeah, apparently he had Tortorella for 6 years in Columbus. He played there, and apparently Tortorella, before the start of camp, he sends every player a handwritten letter before camp telling them.
But this is why, like he gets a bad rap in the media, but his players love him. Because he does these things.
The thing is, he tells them in this letter, he tells them what is going to happen at the camp, and he threatens them.
Oh, okay. So I take that back. But it's a personal touch. Got to give him that.
I don't know. The guy, yeah, exactly. He has his own personal flair of doing things, but and it makes me laugh. But yeah, I mean, the other, I guess, coach you mentioning, like Bruce Cassidy going to Vegas. I mean, that it's interesting in Vegas how many coaches they've been through, and they've only been. I think it's every year basically that they've changed the coach, but.
But like you said, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, like their owner like really, really wants to win. Yeah. And he's got a really short fuse apparently and not very patient. Yeah. So,
but I mean, they've had, Vegas has had the injuries, the man games lost to injury, I guess, like they were like one or two.
Especially last year.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know.
It's terrible.
Like that obviously has to have an influence. Like it's not really the coach's fault. And then now going into this season, like they're not going to have Robin Lehner as the goaltending. Like I don't even know who they have for a goalie. Like they're going to really be, and we know as Leaf fans, we just talked about the whole goaltending scenario for us. You got to have that solid goaltending in order to get anywhere. So that's an interesting. And Bruce Cassidy, I mean, he had so much success in Boston. I don't know. I was shocked that they got rid of him, but yeah. And then we were looking up with Sil. We were looking up before the show with Winnipeg. It was interesting there because like now Blake Wheeler is no longer the captain there, and then they're going to go with this group of players, I guess, as leaders and a leadership group instead of a one captain. And then Rick Bowness is the new head coach there, taking over from I believe it was Adam Lowry, wasn't it? I didn't look that up. I should have looked it up before we came on. But he ended after Paul Maurice left. Lowry.
I thought it was Dave
Lowry. Adam Lowry is a player, maybe a current player, but I always get them mixed up. But anyhow, so he didn't get the job, obviously, to come back to have the. And
well, I guess because after Maurice left, there's a fair amount of turmoil on the team, probably behind the scenes, and which obviously left to some of the fallout with the captaincy as well.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they wanted somebody a little more experienced to help address that. But I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know if Bonus is, gonna, I don't know if he's gonna be, have anything new to bring that will make a big enough difference. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he's been in the league forever. Like we were talking about it. He actually, when we were looking up and researching him, he actually was an assistant coach for Winnipeg in their previous incarnation. So in the 80s. So
there's lots of lots of question marks there because like that Pierre-Luc Dubois, it sounds like he doesn't want to be there after, like he's not doing anything to say that he's gonna want to stick around after this season. And then Mark Scheifele as to the comments he made at the end of last year too.
Yeah, he seems to have kind of be singing a little bit of a different tune now. I guess, he's trying to say the right things. So, yeah, I don't know. They definitely needed to do something because they were big time moving in the wrong direction last year.
Yeah.
Because they are a talented team. And I think this coaching move might be a good thing, because I think they want to have some of their younger, emerging stars. They want them to have more of a voice and have, some leadership on the team, and as to the direction that the team goes.
Yeah. And then finally, because there's too many to go through here, but I just want to mention the change in Detroit with Derek Lalonde. I mean, Stevie Y, obviously.
Yes, that's an interesting one.
Like he, you kind of knew Jeff Blashill was going to be like out basically as the coach. He sounded so much like Mike Babcock. He was under Mike Babcock in Detroit, but
but he was also a Holland hire, right?
Yeah, but so with him, I think like he has the connection. Derek Lalonde had the connection through Tampa, and when Stevie Y was there, so he basically grabbed him. And Detroit has a really young up and coming team. So that's, and I think they're going to do better than what a lot of people are saying this year. So it'll be interesting to see that. And Sheldon Keefe is definitely going to have to, like, basically that's the whole tactics thing that we were talking about with the coaches. Like, you got to know who's behind the bench to know like what your next move is too on the ice with the players on the ice. Yeah,
for sure, because that's part of the thinking, and there's, like you said, there is some new blood, so some research to be done there as well as to, what the tendencies are for a lot of these new coaches. But it's I think it's all about adaptability in the game right now, and you have to be able to be making changes and going with the flow of the game. So it's just funny. We just have to keep track of players changing teams, but now this year, now you got to.
This year we also have to remind ourselves about who's behind the bench for each team. So we'll see.
Well, we've still got about 3 weeks before the drop of the puck on the 2022-23 season, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk about what's gone on at camp. But before we go, just another reminder to enter our anniversary contest on Instagram. The deadline is September 30th, and you could win a great prize of some Leaf gear and a Tim Hortons gift card.
Yeah, and also be sure to follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Our handle is at LTL1917. And a reminder to leave us a review or a rating and let us know what you think of the show. It's easy on Apple, Spotify, and it's important for our show to get more exposure as a source for Leaf content. And we thank you for taking the time.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you, and you can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or any of our social media profile pages. We actually have a couple of new followers in the last month, so thank you to you for joining us there, and we will try to keep things fresh and add new content for you throughout the season.
Yeah, there's lots of, for those of you that haven't visited yet, we have like a photo gallery there of all different things going back to our time games at Maple Leaf Gardens. So definitely check it out. And yes, we'd also definitely want to thank you to our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
So thank you so much for listening. And until next time,
go Leafs, go.
Leafs, go.
Do you believe